Hi everyone, I'm Jamie. I will tell you something today about headless technology and why this is the future of e-commerce. So first of all, we're dating, we're building an e-commerce revolution, and our founding partners are Hatimeria and their IT. We're from the Netherlands, we're from Poland, and we also have an office in Switzerland, and we have about 40 developers working with us. So today I'm going to tell you something about a project the Hatimeria team has been working on in the last few months. And I'm going to do that by a case study of the Rake and aziegler.com, therake.com, aziegler. What it is, it's a Headless Magento 2. It has a React.js front end, a Node.js server, and it's running WordPress in the background. And why is that? That's basically because the Rake is a magazine. And they came to us saying, hey guys, we're a magazine, we want to build a content-driven web shop. How do we do that? WordPress is not good for web shops, obviously. If you want to do a web shop in Magento, you're going to have a problem with your content. How can we solve this? We would like to use both of the best of both worlds. And this is how we came up with this idea. Second, Arial is a shop selling cosmetics. And tell more about that later. So first of all, what is headless? Headless starts basically from the beginning. We have, at the moment, we have traditionally monolithic web shops. It's one system connecting a front and a backend together. We have the front and the backend, which is tightly connected towards each other. In the headless setup, you basically take that apart and you're using three services. So you have a front end, a backend, and they're communicating through an API. These things are fully separate. You can actually really place them also on different servers, and your team can work on it separately without being interfered by each other or blocked by each other. In our case, the front end is in React, and the API runs on the Node.js side, and we have the Magento in the backend combined with WordPress. Why would you do headless? Basically, it has two main advantages. One of them is the performance, and the second is a modular system. So the performance, I will start explaining that one first. Why we need performance. We all know with 1 second delay, the page speed on your desktop, the conversion rate will drop 21.8%. 53% of your customers will be leaving if your page is loading 3 seconds or longer. And 1 second delay, when you have a web shop, which has a turnover of $100,000 or euros in a day, you're going to have a loss of 2.5 million in the year. These numbers are from 2016. If we would have checked the numbers of a few years ago, so let's say 2013, 2014, these numbers would have been much higher because we would accept a page which is loading on 5 seconds. We were accepting that at that point. This also means that within the next 2 years, this 1 second page delay will not have a decrease of 22% people leaving you. It will have a decrease of 60% people leaving you. It's too slow. We need more speed. I will give you an example. I'm going to show you two web shops. On the left, you see a shop which has a almost 100 Google page speed score. It's just a traditional, it's not super traditional, it's a very good Magento shop. And on the other side, you will see our shop, therake.com, which needs some work according to Google. But our shop will be faster. And I will explain you why is that. If we look on both sides, you're going to see at one side you have constantly loading. The web shop is loading. On the other side, it's a single page application. The whole web shop is already there. You don't have a load, you don't have to reload parts of it. And even though this web shop is very fast on the other side, these small loads will give you this small delay. On each side, I'm putting 4 products in the shopping cart, and from there going to the process. I'm flipping back and forth. So on both sides, I'm trying to do the same. And you can see, even though the Zitmax, that's the shop with the chairs, is very fast, still it will never match the speed a single page application can do. Here on this side, I'm already done. I'm now in my shopping process. I'm done at the moment. And on the other side, you can see now there's a super small delay, but it is there. And here, I'm done now. Why is it so fast? It has 3 reasons. It has a React.js framework on the front. It has a Node.js server running in the back. And we build it as a single page application. Well, why is React fast? React, basically, it has many reasons, but I will try to explain the key feature of this is the virtual DOM. The React never talks directly to the DOM. So we have the real DOM, and what React does, it makes basically a copy, a virtual DOM of this, and here it makes the change. So it doesn't talk directly to the DOM. Then it checks both versions, and it sees, hey, there is a difference there, and this is the one which will patch to the real DOM. So in this case, then the real DOM gets updated, and you don't have the normal delay, which you're going to find when you have to talk directly to the DOM. Second thing, PHP versus Node.js. There's a difference in this technology. And I know it's a religion. I know when I'm going to talk about this subject, people have all their opinions about it. But I want to explain you what is the core difference there, which makes it so fast. If you compare both with each other, both are getting a task. And this task can, for example, be when you load something on the home page. It can be the loading of the title, the logo, the shopping cart, all these kind of tasks. So on each side, we have a task and a worker, which needs CPU, which is going to work this and handle this task. On both sides, it's equally fast, nothing happening. Second task is coming, equally fast, nothing happening. But now, we have two tasks coming up at the same time. On each side, the first task is getting done. And what happens at this moment, we have to wait for something to call back. So we have to park it, because we're going to have to wait for an answer to come back. At the moment, on the PHP side, this worker cannot take the second task. It's busy waiting. It cannot handle the second task. On the Node side, it can. Node can multitask in this setup. So on the Node side, we have this second task done. This is what we call blocking versus non-blocking. Then the task gets back and it's getting handled. And on the PHP side, the second task still needs to be done. This basic here, blocking versus non-blocking, it's basically single workers versus people who can do multitasking, will be faster. Of course, you can throw a lot of workers on it, a lot of CPU on it. That's true. You can try to speed it up. But from the basic, this will not be faster. When we look at the single page application, what happens is basically that the whole page is retrieved in once. There is no reloading at any point, and all the dynamic elements, that's the only thing which you see changing. And sometimes you see it, that you see a little bit of this emptiness of these, for example, images, because that is a dynamic element which is trying to load. The advantage of this is that you have everything already. Everything is there, which also means you can very quickly switch to omnichannel. You can, from here, very quickly build an app. Well, now, if you want to build an app from your current web shop, you're going to have to rebuild the whole thing, start from scratch, build a whole app there. But in this case, not, because all these blocks are already there. You just have to copy them, use them, rearrange them in what order you want them, and you can really super easy reload them. Another thing which is very important about this, because it's a single page app and because it's a thing in once, you can put it fully on a CDN. And not just the images. You can put the whole code on a CDN and transfer it everywhere you want it. Dynamic content. That sounds very cool. But what about Google? Because Google does not like dynamic content, cannot read dynamic content. What we did for this is called server-side rendering. At the moment, Google can only read what is in the real DOM. It cannot read the dynamic content. We have some crawlers. There is some crawlers that can read some dynamic content, but we don't want to trust on that. We want to make sure that Google sees everything here. So basically, our websites would be completely ignored by Google. To solve this, we're creating a so-called server-side rendering. On the server side, on the Node side, we pre-render the whole web shop and send the HTML snapshot to the browser, which Google then can read, because then it sees what the user will see. And in this case, the whole website will be able to be read by Google, and we don't have this problem anymore. Now the second thing, why this is the future of e-commerce. And not only because of the speed, but mainly because it's a modular system. So what I mean with that is the following. Now we have traditional web shops. And in a traditional web shop, we have a Magento, and we start to add extensions there. We're going to add tools, we're going to add things, and it's going to be very nice. Until now, it works. But then we get into a little bit of mess. We're going to get chaos. We're going to work. We have people who can only work on this because they know exactly how it works. And if at some point something is going to fall down, we don't know. The rest is also going to fall down. We have no clue what is happening because everything is connected so fast. If you want to replace one thing, it's going to be a hell of a job. You're going to need people who are just going to work on maintenance, because they have to maintain this thing, and that if you're going to solve it on one side, that not on the other side something is going to fall down. You're going to have to spend a lot of money, a lot of time, just on trying to keep your code alive and trying to keep it understandable. If you want to switch your system, you're going to have to rebuild it. In headless web shops, this is very different. As we already said, we have the front end, and we have the API, which is communicating with the back end. But the back end is not just one thing. The back end is basically all different services. And we're using all different programs just for what we want to use them for. For example, we have Magento there, that we use for the products, and we use for orders in this case. Then we have, for example, Algolia, which we directly use for search. Algolia and WordPress and the Magento doesn't need to talk with each other. They just go directly to the API. WordPress for the content. We have PayPal for the pay services. We have Akeneo, for example, if you want to use it for a PIM system. You can use all these kind of services. And if at some point you think, hey, you know, WordPress might not be the fit anymore, I want to switch to, for example, Typo 3, that is possible. Because you just disconnect it and connect the new API. This is also very important for people who work on these services and extension developers to think about. Because they have to make sure that their extensions and their stuff is ready to be able to be used in this kind of setups. The API needs to be ready, and the documentation needs to be ready too. That's very important. So, the thing we have been working on mostly, and we're working on today, is what we call the back end of the front end. And that is what is there in between. So we have the front end running on React.js, and we have in between, we have the Node.js part. And this is what's been taking also quite a lot of time, because what we have to do is build all different blocks which represent a certain service or a certain handling. For example, we have a wish list, we have something for a shopping cart. We need to be able to read this all, to pull them from the API and send them to the front end. Now we have all these blocks. We can very easily reproduce them, rearrange them, and use them in a different web shop. And where in the beginning we needed 2,000 hours to build this and to build the first layer and the first building blocks, now we're on 40 to 100 hours to recreate a full web shop from scratch from a Photoshop file. Because the only thing you need to do is use these little blocks, use the services you want to use in the back end, and color it with the React.js front end. What does this mean for you? If you are a developer, it means a few things. Isolated microservices. The real focus is going to be on the functionality instead of the compatibility and the interference with other services. You can really work on what you're good at. You make sure the API is there, you make sure the documentation is there, and you make sure we all speak that same language. But on your service, you can just work on your service. Super fast development. You have the ability to create front end from scratch in just 40 to 100 hours. And you can work on this separately. You really have specialists. You really have people who are working on it on a different side. Guys are working on the back-end services, guys are working on stuff, and the other ones are working simultaneously on the front end. They don't have to wait anymore for each other. So they can together work, and at the end, they connect their APIs together. One more thing. There will be no more varnish. We don't need any more varnish when you work with the Node.js there, because Node.js does all the caching for you. We don't need any more services like this to be able to have a super fast website. What does this mean if you're a merchant? If you're a merchant, it means that development process becomes very lean, much faster, and it's going to save you a lot of cost and money. It means also that you don't need to choose for one solution, because you can choose whatever you want to choose and just combine them. And if you want to switch it, you can do that. You will be very flexible. If you think, okay, I want to go from WordPress to Typo 3, that's no problem. But also, I want to go from Magento 1 to Magento 2. Now we have to rebuild the whole web shop. But in that case, that's not necessary anymore, because you have the front. You just have to disconnect it and use the API. And you can do that also at the same time. You don't have to stop your development on one side to switch fully to the new one. You don't have to, because you can just prepare it and easily start using kind of services. If you only want to use a part of Magento 2 and a part of Magento 1, that's possible with these kind of setups. Vision for the future. We think the microservice approach is the future of e-commerce. And we're not the only ones who think this. If we look at Magento themselves, they're working on this. They're working on the PWA, they're working with this. They created the Magento 2 with a very big API and a good documentation so we can start building these kind of things. Google is doing it. We have NPM, where you can find all the packages. At the moment, almost 500,000 packages which can be found there, ready for us to use. PayPal is working on this. Algolia, super easy, super ready. Plug in, play. In December 2016, Alan Kent, the Vice President of Architecture, said the same thing. He said the simple recommendation, he made a blog writing about microservice technology, writing about headless, and he said you have to consider, to where appropriate, provide these REST APIs so they can be used in headless scenarios. Now, we believe this is really where we need to go, all of us. This is the revolution, this is the e-commerce, this is the new thing where we need to start working on. This will change our web shops. This will change the way we work as developers. But we cannot do this alone. We're DIT. We started this. But we need you to help us with that. And what we're doing, we will open source part of that core code, that part where you can find all these Node.js blocks. We want to start sharing it with you. We want to make sure that we can all start using this. We know with the 40 of us, we're not going to be able to start this revolution. We will be able to create some very nice code and very nice blocks, but we need to speed up this process. We all need to start doing this together. Sign up at dite.io. You can all sign up there, and then we will keep you up to date. So, what are the next steps to do? First of all, we're going to spread the word about headless and microservice technology. Second, we're working on building this community. We really need to do this together. Third one is we're getting our code ready to open source. We're working on it hard. We're expecting it at the beginning of next year to start launching the first codes and start sharing everything with you guys. We need to add more building blocks to this core so we can use more functionality. We have bigger coverage of all the services. And last but not least, we're going global, and we will be opening an office in New York. Thank you, guys. You want to join us? We're looking still for developers. And if you want to catch me, I have stickers. Is there anyone who has a question? Excuse me, I can't really hear you. Yes. Well, to
repeat the question.
Yeah, he's asking the question: what exactly is the role of the Node.js in between, and why we're not using the React to talk directly to the code or to the APIs? Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not the software architect, but I will try to explain as far as I know. If you want a more deeper answer to the question, obviously I can call my architect very soon after this talk, and we can talk about this more. But why we're using it, we don't want to go directly because we want to have this layer in between in which we can do, for example, this server-side rendering, which we can reuse and restart to build very easily, and it caches for you. So the speed will go up very fast with this. A more detailed answer, I will get back to you. Anyone else who has a question? Yes. If we're going to offer the front-end open source, yes, we are.
I don't want this microphone in my face. Thank you, Celeste. Yeah, have you guys experimented with React Native in this approach yet?
Yes, I have some guys who have been trying this. Why exactly they choose to go not with React Native and start this? That answer I will give you later, because that is something I really don't know why they choose one or the other. Okay, that's it. If they're done using it and if they will start using it later, I will get back to you on that. No questions anymore? Okay, I will be walking around. You can catch me, and let's have a talk about this. Thank you.